Well, hi, folks. This is Jim Peacock, and with another Peak Careers interview. This one's a little different. I was at the Mid-Atlantic Career Counseling Conference, which I love, down in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And there were a couple people there that had written books, and I did, I'm including a short interview with them that was live. And then Lametra Off posts something on LinkedIn, and I could not stop myself from asking her to talk about it. She posted this article that you wrote. I think the blog you wrote was a year ago, I think.
That's correct.
And it was called "You Are What You Read," and then you had another little connection in that blog. But so I just said, I've got to have her on here and talk to her because I love that idea. You are what you read. So, Lametra, maybe you could just give a little intro of you and what you do, and then tell us a little bit about what you are, what you read mean.
Yes, again, my name is Lametra Off, and I am a life and career coach with experiences beyond life and career coaching. I have experiences in the Army, United States Army, experiences in the telecommunications field, in the banking industry, and with government administration. So all those experiences and the people that I came across led me to know and to believe that my personal and professional belief is that we're all in a better society if we're working with our strengths, our interests, our skills, our abilities, and we're working in our purpose, truly who we are. That, again, is related to the topic today.
All right.
We're all so many things, and those things are partly attributed to what we read.
Yeah.
For me, I have, maybe about 3 to 5 years ago, I looked at all the materials I've accumulated, and all those materials were professional and personal development materials. And they are materials about how to know yourself, how to discover who you are, and what makes you unique. With that said, I sat down one day and I was about to write about something. And then I remembered a colleague for a volunteer group mentioned something about his books. Then I looked at my books, and I thought, what do these books say about me? Then I remembered what they said about me, that I love discovering, developing others.
Yeah.
Helping others to discover something unique about themselves, first and foremost, which is what I want to do for me, what I did for myself, and what I want to do for others. So I picked 3 books and I elaborated on those 3.
And so, just so we don't forget, what's the name of your website?
Oh, my website is lbocareercoaching.com. LBO are the initials of my name, Lametra B Off.
All right. So I'll try to include that in the post here when we get this up too. So you are what you read. Boy, there's something about, I'm looking at my bookshelf behind here, and it's just, there's all these career books that are just calling to me, and I have a hard time throwing them away. It's like, every once in a while, there's a few of them I just love to pull off the shelf and kind of flip through them a little bit. But I have so many that I love, and it's like you, they're, if you were to come here and look at my bookshelf, and I actually have 2 books, I have a big one behind here, and then I have one downstairs, you would really get a feel for who I am and what's important to me. Right. And it's
exactly what essentially, not only what's important to you, the word is what you value. Consider that. Yeah. Many people may think that if you look at your checkbook, for those who carry or use a checkbook nowadays, yeah. Or you look at your bank statement, the electronic bank statement, you'll see what you spent money on. In the same way, if you have books at all, you see what you value. And right. For me, like you, I have some career development books in my arsenal.
Yeah. And, you know, and for me, I'm pretty eclectic. I mean, I've got career books and now that I have my own business, private practice, you know, I've done more marketing books that are creeping up. But I have a lot of historical novels, a lot of books about backpacking and camping. Right. So, I mean, if you were here, you could look at my shelf and go, I know what's important to this guy. Right. I mean, this is, it's very revealing. You know, one of the quotes I saw recently, I can't memorize it, but it's really about a person who doesn't read books has one life. A person who reads many books has many lives.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I love that quote.
Yeah.
I love that quote. And so that's actually in my newsletter that's going out. So if you're interested, get a hold of my newsletter that goes out tomorrow. Goes out December 10th. But
yes.
So, and then you also went to there's some kind of First Friday book club that you went to. You said not a book club, but First Friday. What was that all about?
It's kind of like a book club, but it's not a book club. It's a club in essence that the individuals that have attended have continued to come back, from what I understand, because the individuals that were at my table, 2 career coaches, I might add, were regular attendees. And it's called the First Friday book synopsis, because it's a book synopsis, not a review, and it's not any give or take from the audience. Randy Mayu, his last name is spelled M-A-Y-A or E-U-X, I believe. Well, he is the one that facilitates the discussion. And actually, it's very little discussion. He gives a synopsis of 2 books that he selects. Usually they're business books, and usually they're the ones that are on the bestsellers list. The one that attracted me recently was the one that was about you are what you do. And it's about culture, organizational culture, which reminded me of one of my books that was one of my favorite books called Do What You Are.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that one?
Oh yeah, that's up on the shelf right here. Yeah.
And it's up on my shelf too. I may be able to point to it. You can see it here. And again, I love the personality preference tied to Do What You Are. So when I heard that that's one of the books, well, I thought that was related to one of the books Randy mentioned. I thought it was related to Do What You Are, which perked my interest, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it was still very interesting, because another one of my interests is organizational culture. Yeah. And the way organizations can grow or die, for the lack of a better word, based on its culture.
Yeah. Well, listen, I wanted to just grab you for this time. This was great. We've never met, but we have now. And now that I know you're a book lover, you know, we can start sharing some great ideas on books.
Right, right.
So thank you very much, Lametra. It's been great to meet you. And what I'm doing this month on these interviews, folks, those of you who've watched before, I'm actually going to splice a couple of these together. And I hope you enjoy books and enjoy this interview as much as I do. Thank you. Well, hi, folks. This is Jim Peacock. I'm at the Mid-Atlantic Career Counseling Association Conference down in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I've tried to make it down here every couple of years. It's a great career conference. December is my book month. I always write about books and my book reviews in my newsletter. This month is focused on the books that I've read. And I'm going to talk to a couple of my good friends down here at the conference, the MACA conference, about books, because there's some prolific book readers. But today I have Jane Finkle, who has her book that just came out. When did this come out?
Actually came out February.
It came out in February.
Yeah, right.
And so talk to me. What is it? Talk to me about this book.
Well, I think that, I think when people write books, often it's based on some experience or some knowledge they have. So I am lean towards introversion, And I work with lots of clients who've had some challenges because the American culture is extroverted. You're rewarded for speaking up and taking initiative. And introverts can do this, but it's not as natural for them.
Right.
So I had an experience when I worked at the University of Pennsylvania where I would freeze up at meetings. There were 20 people there and they just kept talking. And I just didn't know how to get a word in edgewise. And what happened is I was there for about 7 months and I thought I was failing. And so I thought I had an opportunity to move to another area. And the director said, well, you need to go through an interview. I said, that's fine. And came back the next day and said, your new supervisor says there's no need to interview you. She thinks you're great. So what I realized is that there was part of being introversion that was positive.
Interesting.
Probably the way I interacted with the students, sort of a calm, intense nature that I have, but it didn't solve the problem of speaking up. And I had to learn, as long as I planned in advance, so before a meeting, I learned to think about what are the key points that I want to highlight, maybe some questions that I ask, because it wasn't as easy for me to be spontaneous in those situations.
You know, and that's the advice I've heard. I'm a huge extrovert, so I was the guy talking over you for all those years. But one of the things, like for people who are networking, I haven't read your book yet, but you know, that was one of the tips that I give my introverts is that prepare ahead of time when you go to a conference and think, who do I want to see, and maybe what do I even want to ask, and what is it? What do I want to share, or what do I want to learn? Right? I mean, it's the same idea.
Right. It is. You know, I think especially with networking. You know, I always have in the book I talk about 3 golden rules for speaking up, and one is to use the natural part of introversion, which is reflection. So think about if you're going to network, what is it that you can say about yourself? What's your goal in talking to a person? You know, highlighting accomplishments. And then the next thing is to organize your thoughts. Because I know when I reflect, a zillion things come out. So am I going to have some bullet points, review some bullet points? You know, what am I going to do to organize my thoughts? And then I think maybe extroverts don't need to do this as much, but I tell introverts to rehearse. Do it with a friend. You know, maybe I talk to myself. So that's how I reherse.
Well, Zoom, that's what we're using today. I mean, you could actually do Zoom and record it,
that's right?
I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it. Yeah, see, extroverts, we don't want to rehearse anything. We just want to, I just like watch the words fly out of my mouth and then corral them in.
Yeah, you know, that, and I think that in our culture sometimes we think of like the poor extrovert. And so really one of my missions in writing this book is to speak out for introverts, but more important, help them speak out for themselves. But also to embrace introversion. There's so many good parts of it.
The book, The Quiet, really hit home with me so much because it really talked about what is the value that introverts bring. And that's one thing I've had to learn is ask. And then shut up, you know, and then actually give people time to think, and then, you know, and then listen, right? I mean, and it's really about, you got to give everybody, a lot of introverts have got great thoughts, but they don't get the airtime.
Right.
So I'm much more sensitive to that nowadays, especially running meetings and stuff.
Right.
It doesn't take long to find out who the extroverts are, you know, in a meeting, you know.
Right. But also I teach introverts about what I call diplomatic interruption. So extroverts don't have any trouble interrupting, right? They just, you know, bop, 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 they're talking.
Interesting.
So introverts think it's not polite to just jump in. But in the book, I talk about diplomatic interruption, where you simply say, excuse me for interrupting. Or that point you just made triggered an idea I have. Or I know we're running a little late on the meeting and I want to make sure that there's enough time for me to present the report on the statistics of the recent college graduate.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're in a public place and we're just, you know, there's people talking around us.
Waving to a colleague.
Yes. So. I love that, you know, because it is true. Extroverts don't even think about it. you know. So this is called The Introvert's Complete Career Guide, from landing a job to surviving, thriving, and moving on up.
So beyond, I just want to say beyond the job search, there also, the last part of the book deals with, once you get a job, you know, how do you survive? So it has lots of tips and different formulas for that.
Nice, nice. Well, Jane, thank you. I'm going to also this is the year for books. So most of you know that this is, this came out, if you follow me, you know this came out this past spring. I've also been talking about this on my Facebook Lives. I've sort of been talking about a chapter every single month. So if you want to check out the Facebook Peak Careers, you can see a little overview of some of the chapters. All right. Well, thank you, Jane, very much. And this has been great. All right.
Bye-bye.
I'm Jim Peacock. We're at MACA just wrapping up. And this is my friend Karen Chopra. She has a book. I went to her session yesterday on negotiation, and it was awesome. So Karen, can you tell us a little bit about your book?
So the book is called Coaching Career Clients on Salary and Other Workplace Negotiations. And it is a place where I've collected everything that I know about negotiating salary and raises, promotions, even exit packages, all in one book. And it is written for the career professional. So it is written to help you think about how to coach your clients through these very difficult moments. And I've got scripts in there. I've got exact talking points that you can help with, give your clients. We talk about sort of the framework to think through negotiations. And many of my colleagues who have read this book have used it for their own purposes, not just to help clients. So there's some benefit to you too if you end up reading this book as a career professional.
So is it on your website?
It is on my website. You can also get it on Amazon.com. And it is also available on iBooks, I'm pretty sure. So download it on your Kindle. You don't even have to go for a hard copy.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And you got another book you're playing with?
I'm working on a book about women in negotiations because I think a lot of women don't think that their career offers as many negotiation opportunities as there are actually there. And I think if people start thinking about negotiating their career success rather than just hoping it comes to them, they'll feel more empowered in their careers.
All right. So stay tuned for that upcoming book. But the negotiation workshop she did was fabulous, and I am buying her book. All right. Take care.
So where is this going?
Nowhere right now.
Oh, okay. You're just collecting them first. Thanks so much, Connie, for.
And you could just maybe when you're.
All right.
I'll just hold this up at the beginning.
So I'm with one of my other good friends here, Paula Brand, and she is with Brand
Career Management.
Brand Career
Management
is the full name of it. I was going to hack that up myself. But she has a book that she's recommending from another friend of ours, and I'll let her talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so I don't block the title. It's called What's Mom Still Got to Do With It by Ilana Tolpin-Levitt, and there's a picture of Ilana. We missed her at the conference today. But yeah, I loved it because I have a close relationship with my mom, and I have 3 sisters, and the book walks you through different types of relationships. It categorizes it into 5 different categories, such as the butterfly daughter, the maverick daughter, and so on. And it allows you to explore your relationship with your mother in a different context and sort of see how that can play out at work, basically. So it was helpful and interesting to me as a woman who has a mother who I'm close to. My mother went back to school at a very, basically after having 6 children, and went back to get her bachelor's, got her law degree, joined a small local firm and is still there and is still working in her 80s in real estate law, and she's awesome at what she does. So she was a great role model. And so this book really, again, resonated because it talks about how did your mom influence your career. And one thing I discovered from reading the book is that my mom really was very open-minded, and that none of my sisters nor I do the same thing as my mom. I have one sister who went to law school, but she's not a practicing attorney. And so I think I guess it really made me appreciate my mom in that she didn't force any of her career issues on us, or her career regrets, or her path in any way. And I think that played out very interestingly. I have one sister who's the former attorney, is a writer, just published a book, and is also a mediator. I have one sister who's a massage therapist turned into acupuncturist. I have another sister who's really interesting because she has a great creative side. She's a great artist, but she also has been a bookkeeper and is a town clerk. So you can see, and I'm a career counselor, and my father also had a very big influence, but the book's all about your mother and daughter relationships. And I interviewed my mom, inspired by this book. I interviewed my mom a couple weekends ago and asked her some of the questions in the book and recorded it, and I'm so happy I have that forever.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. And so if they want to know more about your business, what's your website?
My website is brandcareermanagement.com.
Awesome.
And Paula Brand Careers is my LinkedIn URL. And on Twitter, it is Brand Career MGMT.
There you go. And this is one of my book reading friends. And it's always great to see people in person after a year or more of not seeing you, because I don't think I was here last year.
It has been a while.
But
if I can say one more thing, I also read Jim's book, which I think is excellent, and I wrote a recommendation for it. So I put my ideas into words and as proof. But yeah, your book was also very excellent. Congratulations.
All right, folks. Thank you so much.